Linda Kozlowski entered public memory as the woman who helped define one of cinema's most unlikely global hits. Yet her life was never built around staying in the spotlight. To audiences, she appeared effortlessly confident, intelligent, and adventurous, a modern woman who could move between worlds without losing herself. Behind that image, however, was a performer deeply shaped by discipline and intention rather than ambition alone. Fame arrived suddenly, loudly, and with expectations that did not always align with her values. Instead of chasing visibility at any cost, Kozlowski learned to observe, evaluate, and step back when the work no longer reflected her sense of purpose. Her story is not about disappearance, scandal, or regret. It is about knowing when something has run its course. Long after her most famous role, Kozlowski continued building a life guided by curiosity, creativity, and personal truth. Her journey reminds us that success does not always mean staying seen, but knowing when to move forward quietly. Roots built on culture and craft. Born on January 7, 1958, in Fairfield, Connecticut, Linda Kozlowski grew up in a Polish-American household that emphasized education, heritage, and steady effort. Creativity was encouraged, but never indulged without structure. From an early age, she gravitated toward music and drama, finding confidence not through attention, but through practice. School plays and community theater offered her a place to refine discipline, not ego. That foundation carried her to the Juilliard School in New York City, where her approach to acting was sharpened through rigorous classical training. Juilliard demanded emotional control, technical precision, and resilience, qualities that would later define her screen presence. Kozlowski's time there was not about stardom, but mastery. She learned how to listen, respond, and exist truthfully within a scene. This grounding distinguished her later film work, giving her performances a naturalism that felt lived in rather than performed and deeply human. The role that changed everything. Kozlowski's career shifted dramatically when she was cast as journalist Sue Charlton in Crocodile Dundee in 1986. What began as a modest project became a worldwide phenomenon, connecting audiences across cultures with humor, warmth, and sincerity. Her portrayal of Sue was intelligent, independent, and emotionally grounded, offering a refreshing balance to the film's fish-out-of-water comedy. Viewers responded strongly to her authenticity and on-screen chemistry with Paul Hogan. The film became one of the highest-grossing releases of the year and elevated Kozlowski into international recognition almost overnight. Yet what made her performance endure was not spectacle, but restraint. Sue Charlton was not written as an accessory or idealized fantasy. She was thoughtful, capable, and self-possessed. That grounded portrayal resonated deeply, turning Kozlowski into a recognizable face of the era, while also defining the narrow expectations that would later complicate her relationship with Hollywood. Working beyond the franchise. Following the success of Crocodile Dundee, Kozlowski continued acting throughout the late 1980s and 1990s, exploring a range of roles that reflected her desire to grow rather than repeat herself. She appeared in films such as Pass the Ammo, where she worked alongside respected character actors, and took part in television projects that allowed more narrative complexity. In the mid-1990s, she intentionally stepped into darker and more challenging material, appearing in crime dramas and psychological thrillers that contrasted sharply with her breakthrough role. She also worked with established directors and ensembles, including a supporting role in Village of the Damned. While these projects did not always achieve widespread attention, they reflected her commitment to craft rather than convenience. Kozlowski was less interested in preserving an image than in staying engaged as an actor. Over time, however, the opportunities offered to her no longer matched that commitment, choosing to walk away. By the early 2000s, Kozlowski reached a turning point that many performers quietly face. The scripts arriving no longer carried depth or care, and the production environments felt disconnected from artistic intention. Rather than accept work that felt hollow, she chose to step away. This decision was not fueled by bitterness, but clarity. Her priorities were changing, and personal well-being mattered more than remaining visible. She recognized that continuing simply to remain active would cost her peace. Walking away from Hollywood was not framed as retreat, but as self-preservation. She understood that fulfillment does not always follow applause. By choosing to leave on her own terms, Kozlowski preserved her sense of authorship over her life. Her departure was quiet, without announcement or spectacle, reinforcing a consistent pattern. When something no longer aligned with her values, she moved forward without needing validation from the industry she left behind. Love, partnership, and public perception. Kozlowski's marriage to Paul Hogan grew naturally from their on-screen partnership and became one of the most recognizable relationships of its time. Together, they navigated fame, family life, and creative collaboration for over 2 decades. They welcomed a son and worked to balance public attention with private stability. Over time, however, their lives evolved in different directions. Rather than framing their separation as dramatic or contentious, Kozlowski later described it as the result of gradual change. Their divorce in 2014 was respectful and centered on mutual understanding, particularly as co-parents. Public narratives often simplified the story, but reality was more nuanced. Kozlowski emphasized that choosing to leave was about reclaiming her own voice rather than reacting to conflict. Ending a long partnership required courage, reflection, and honesty. For her, it was not an ending defined by loss, but a necessary step toward personal alignment and renewed independence. Reinvention far from Hollywood. After stepping away from both Hollywood and a long marriage, Kozlowski embraced a new chapter that reflected her love for culture, travel, and connection. She relocated to Morocco and co-founded a bespoke luxury travel company specializing in immersive experiences. This work allowed her to tell stories differently, not through film, but through place, history, and human connection. Her days became grounded in rhythm rather than schedule, exploration rather than obligation. Entrepreneurship offered creative satisfaction without performance pressure. In Morocco, she was not recognized first as an actress, but as a collaborator and builder. This shift mattered. It allowed her to exist without comparison to her past. Her partnership with her husband grew from shared purpose rather than public image. Reinvention did not erase her earlier life. It expanded it. By choosing a quieter, more intentional path, Kozlowski demonstrated that transformation does not require reinvention of identity, only honesty about what truly sustains you. A life centered on meaning. Today, Kozlowski measures success through balance rather than achievement. Family, health, curiosity, and meaningful work form the center of her daily life. She speaks openly about fulfillment as something earned through consistency, not recognition. Her pride rests not in film credits, but in raising her son, building a business, and maintaining relationships rooted in mutual respect. The glamour of fame no longer defines her story. Instead, she values moments that unfold slowly, routines that nourish rather than drain, and ambitions that grow organically. She remains engaged with the world, curious about new ideas and future possibilities, including creative ventures inspired by culture and travel. Her advice reflects lived experience. Trust yourself, protect your vision, and do not confuse endurance with happiness. Kozlowski's life today is not a retreat from ambition, but a redefinition of it, shaped by wisdom rather than expectation. The quiet strength of knowing when to leave. Linda Kozlowski's story challenges the idea that fulfillment must follow a single upward trajectory. Her legacy is not built on endless reinvention or public confession, but on consistency of values. She understood that staying visible is not the same as staying true. By stepping away when the work no longer served her, she preserved something more durable than fame: autonomy. Her journey from Hollywood success to private reinvention shows that courage often appears in quiet decisions rather than dramatic declarations. She did not disappear. She redirected her energy toward spaces that welcomed her fully. In doing so, she modeled an alternative definition of success, one rooted in self-knowledge and intentional living. Kozlowski reminds us that sometimes the most powerful choice is to stop performing and start living. Not every story needs a spotlight to be complete. Some only need the freedom to continue on their own terms.